special episode of the Walk-Off Mariners edition. It's our first episode with a very special guest. We'd like to welcome to the show a relief pitcher for the Seattle Mariners, Tayler Saucedo. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, we're stoked. First guest of this podcast. I know you did some episodes with Scotty B over on the Blue Jays side, but headed out to the West Coast. How's that feeling?
Oh man, it's the best. I don't want to be anywhere else.
Does it make a difference being home?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I was actually talking about that yesterday. It doesn't feel like a job. It feels more of like, a passion, and, I really want to try and bring this whole thing home for everybody. And obviously it'd be really cool to just be a part of that. If, we can eventually win that World Series, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. And is that the mindset with the team right now? I think everybody, or at least the pitchers and catchers, have reported, right?
Yeah, pitchers and catchers are here. There's some hitters here. I mean, majority of the hitters are already here. Like, I think everybody's really juiced right now. Like, there's a really good buzz. You could tell the talent in the room, like even the guys that they brought in, names that you probably haven't heard of, like you can see it. I mean, it's clear as day for what we have in that room. And, I know everybody's really excited.
Nice. And no, that's exciting to hear as somebody that's no longer playing, but as a fan now, to know that guys are showing up early. That's always a good sign.
Absolutely.
When people show up late or start holding out or whatever, waiting for that new contract, that's the worst thing a fan wants to hear.
Exactly.
No, that's cool, man. As a Canadian that has moved to America, and as you, an American that lived in Canada there when you were playing with the Blue Jays, who's got the better food?
I think Canada.
Okay.
It,
All right.
it just felt cleaner.
Yeah. That's the stance that I've been taking. I don't know what your diet looks like, man, but I took my girlfriend, she's from Denver, up to Canada, and the McDonald's difference
Oh,
alone.
it's a huge difference. It's a huge. Yeah. Every time we went to Canada, I was like, all right, I'm at least getting McDonald's once.
Yeah.
It didn't feel as bad. I tell that to people all the time. I'm like, Canadian McDonald's is so much better.
It's different, man. It's wild too. I can't even eat it down here after going from that to this.
No, it's bad.
That you had mentioned the buzz in the locker room and around spring training facility right now. Do you and like the other players kind of pay attention to the offseason moves and transactions, rumors, and all that? Do you guys sit there and discuss, oh fuck, we got to go get Ohtani or X player? I just use that as an example because of the contract he just signed in the offseason. Right. We had focused around him, but do you guys pay attention to that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's obviously going to be, you want to look at who's going to be on your team and, who you could potentially lose. It's definitely something we always talk about, like, and I think you have to have some patience, right? Like, I think you come out the gate and everyone's always like, all right, you got to sign everybody. And, as players, we know that there's a process to it. And we know that I think for the most part that this management has done a really good job of piecing together with what they have in front of them. And yeah, I mean, we're always chatting, especially when you lose one of your friends or something like that, that it sucks, but that's the business. And that guys like that, especially when they have good years or whatever it is, when they're young or controllable, you might lose them. And so, we're always talking, we're always communicating and seeing what's going on. And, and at the end of the day, I think they did a really good job.
Nice. Yeah. And I think like the fans kind of did too see that like very slow start to the offseason where, it was panic mode. And then all of a sudden they bring in Santos and they bring in Polanco to play second base. And all of a sudden the offseason feels a lot better.
Yeah, I'm glad they did that. It's team's looking really, really good on paper right now.
No, yeah, and I couldn't agree more, man. Absolutely. Do you find like obviously the players understand this is a business and you guys are employees and it's a job and you're going to build those friendships, but the business part does come in. Paul Sewell gets traded at the deadline last year. Robbie Ray this offseason. What did that affect of these more, veteran pitchers, especially a guy like Robbie Ray, who's won a Cy Young? What effect does that have on you personally, but also on the field?
Yeah, I think we've all been a part of it now for a while, and this isn't our first rodeo when we see guys, especially that when you're close with that, they get traded. We kind of had an idea that maybe Paul's name might be up, for grabs. And so you kind of start preparing for that, and you kind of just like cross your fingers and hope that, he stays or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, losing a guy like Paul, especially for when you had such a young bullpen, like we did, not many guys that have been established in the big leagues. Paul was somebody that we leaned on, but he left us with, everything that we could take from him. And, I think that bullpen, we took off, and obviously you lose guys like Gino, and you lose, all these guys, and that's the business. But at the end of the day, we all have jobs to do, and we know that we're going to have to continue to keep moving forward. And you can't, you can't bitch and moan, just because somebody's gone and just because you have a good relationship with them. We all are employees, and we still have to go out there and get the job done. And when you replace players like that, and you get the players in return, it makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, we're excited.
And I think those guys contributed last year, the guys that came over in that Seawall trade, and I'm hoping that's going to be the case too with the Robbie Ray trade. I know Descalfini is moved again, but obviously Haniger, a Seattle favorite. Have you had a chance to talk to him, meet him yet?
Yeah, actually we ate lunch together today. He's awesome dude. I've never played with him before, but everybody raves about him, fans, players, like guys that have played with him, awesome guy. So, it's great to bring back a clubhouse guy like that. And, especially a guy that's been there and did it with us. So, I'm pumped to have him, pumped to see what he brings. And, it's like I said, I keep saying it's exciting, but that's how it's been since we've all been back.
No, that's great. And I mean, it makes a big difference going into work, whether, I can't imagine like, if a veteran player was to sign, and not they're division rival, so I guess I will throw them under the bus, but the Oakland Athletics, obviously we saw, what went down last year with their win-loss record, and then, going through that transition of fans wanting them to sell the team, but also ultimately making that decision to move to Vegas. What's that like for you guys to see, what other players could potentially be going through with their organization versus, what you get in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, I think you feel blessed that you're not in that situation, right? Like, I think the Mariners do a really good job of taking care of their players, communicating and doing all that stuff. Like, and you have guys that have come over from the A's, and it's they're like, it's not fun over there. And they get over here and they're like, this is what it's like. This is what like a full team could look like. And you're like, man, I don't want to leave this place. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to the club.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm blessed. And, I think a lot of guys are happy to be here and not having to deal with that situation of like the uncertainty of like, hey, are we leaving? Are we not leaving? Are we staying? Are we going? Where does our loyalty lie? All this kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's tough, but like I said, it's a job. So take
Yeah, no,
care.
that's fair. Uh, Chipper Jones is pretty famously known for commenting on the old Florida Marlins stadium and how trash it was. Do you have those same sentiments towards not having to play in the Coliseum, hopefully going forward?
I think the Coliseum is historic, but yeah, I mean, I think, it'd be pretty nice not to play there anymore. So
That's fair. Yeah. All these fields where you got to play on, or the bullpen is on the field. I think we got to get, that's got to be.
yeah, the bullpen too is like the worst part about it. It's like you're in this like crammed like little spot, and like you can't move. You got this little cover above you. Keep hitting your head on it. It's like every time I go there, I'm like, man. And then it doesn't cover your knees, so if it's like pretty much raining there all the time, and your knees just get soaked, and the rest of your body's dry, and it's like it just sucks, man.
That's
So,
pretty brutal, man.
yeah. So, but
Yeah.
I hope for Oakland fans though they stay. So
Yeah, and I think what that even like whether you're an Oakland fan or not, I think like you said, there's a lot of history in that stadium, and there's a lot of history within that team, especially like, the attention that Moneyball brought, but and so much more than that, Ricky Henderson
Right.
and all those greats that have played there.
And plus, we know what that feels like, to lose like the Sonics, right? So like you don't ever want to lose your team. So
That's
you
right.
know, but
Were you a Sonics guy growing up?
yeah, I actually went to the last Sonics game, the home Sonics game ever. So that
No
was
shit.
pretty cool. Yeah, I still have like the ticket and everything. And there was a picture. Me and my buddy, we went, and it was when Kevin Durant took the ball on a fast break and dunked it. It's against the Mavericks, and they put it was just like me and my buddy, like we're raising our hands. And they put it in the Seattle Times, and so I have that picture from the Times and the ticket on my wall at home. So
Wow, that's a hell of a story. That's a deep cut right there.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not
so
bad.
I understand how the Oakland fans feel. We all do, but
Yeah, no, no, totally, man. So Sonics fan, are you also a Seahawks guy then?
yeah, big. I mean, all Seattle sports except for the Cougs. So
Fair.
um,
Okay, more of a
yeah.
Huskies guy.
Oh yeah, big Husky guy and yeah, big Seahawks fan. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I'm an Eagles fan, and I went to that game this last year, so Drew Lock broke my heart a little bit.
That was
There's,
a good,
there's
that was a good game. That was a good game.
This is kind of a crazy question. I just came up with it today. I know it wasn't in the pre-screening, but you see how much success the Kansas City Chiefs had this year, and obviously all the buzz around Taylor Swift. The Mariners assigned Cole Tucker to a minor league contract, who is famously married to Vanessa Hudgens. Do you think that she could play that role this year like Taylor did and bring a championship to the Mariners?
I hope so. Preferably though, I hope it's Cole Tucker, but hey, if her juju rubs off on us, that'd be perfect. I'm down for some Swifty magic. I'm down for some Hudgen magic. Whatever it is, I'm in. Just get us there.
Whatever it takes. I mean, Cole's probably got to do his part and hit, 400 with 20 stolen bases in April.
Right,
So,
right, exactly. So yeah, no, and we'll see what happens.
no, fair enough. No pressure on the kid. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm familiar, just following your path to, the big leagues, this seems like your first year where it's kind of almost felt like you got that guaranteed spot in the bullpen as opposed to, trying to make the team like you did in Toronto and then like you did last year with the Mariners. What's that like preparing in spring training and how does that make it easier or more difficult to, keep that focus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any spot is guaranteed, especially when you have options. And I know the Mariners, they take into consideration of like what you did previously. And obviously, yeah, I had a decent year last year, but like I said, there's so much talent in this room. And, I think they're going to go right out the gate and try to put the best lineup they can, so I'm still always competing and I'm always going to have that competitive edge around me. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out, and whether I'm up on their opening day or whether I'm down in Tacoma, I'm going to respect whatever they do, and that's all. That's all I'm looking forward to day by day. That's it. Doing what I can, and hopefully that's enough. And we'll see, but. I know the Mariners and talent they put in this room, nothing's guaranteed. So, at the end of the day, we'll see what happens.
No, and I mean, fair enough. And I like that outlook of knowing like, I know I played well last year and in theory it should be good enough to carry over into this year, but nothing's guaranteed, especially in a business that is so competitive and so, or results based
Yeah.
business that yeah, no, you're right. You don't show up. It's, you could be Max Scherzer and,
I mean,
nothing is
I think he's
guaranteed.
a little bit. I think he's a little guaranteed, but
I mean, they got to pay him,
right,
but
right.
but you could look at a guy like, not to throw him under the bus, but a guy like Alek Manoah last year who, finished second or third in Cy Young and then, got the yips a little bit. So, anything can happen.
Right. And you would never expect that guy to be down in AAA. So, but I did see the videos of Manoa. He looks good though right now. So we'll see. Hopefully he bounces back.
Yeah, no doubt, man. He's seems like an easy guy to cheer for, especially when he's yelling at the Yankees bench, So
Yeah, I mean, when I played with him, he was great teammate, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's one of those guys I think that you look at and you're like, man, I hate that guy from the other side, but then when you're in with him, you're like, I love this guy. So
Yeah,
I'm rooting
that's a
for him.
guy. That's a guy you want to have on your side. And I know like they went through that whole thing with like when they made the All-Star team with Kirk and Manoa jumped in and had his back and seeing shit like that is cool because it is a bit of a brotherhood with your team, You guys play 162 games a year and obviously there's moving pieces up and down, but you spend a lot of time together. So
Exactly.
no, completely fair. Tell me what was cooler, Taylor? Was getting to pitch at the Rogers Center? I believe it was the day before your birthday, right? Oh,
Yeah.
was first big league taste.
Yeah.
Was it that or putting on the Mariners uniform and pitching in the Electric Factory for the first time? What was a cooler experience, or can you even compare the two?
Well, my debut was in Buffalo. We weren't in Toronto yet.
Okay.
So, it my debut is obviously pretty cool. You come in against the Yankees. You're seeing my first guy was Brett Gardner, and you're like, I've watched this guy on TV for years, and now I've got to go get him out. I mean, that obviously is special. You can only do that once, but I think for me, definitely putting on that Mariners uniform was just a different. It felt like my debut all over again. It felt brand new, and I just didn't want to mess it up. That's all I was thinking about. And there was this time around, obviously a lot more eyes on me just because I'm at home, my friends, they're all aware of it. Anybody that I ever knew down in Seattle, they're all aware of it. So it's just like it felt a little bit more with Seattle than it did with Toronto. And I have the utmost respect for Toronto. They stuck with me from since 2015 to 2022 and obviously put me in the big leagues and gave me that opportunity. But I'm Seattle through and through. And, it definitely was way more special to put on that uniform.
That's cool, man. No, that's super cool. And I think like a lot of what a lot of fans, I guess, and not so much maybe your inner circle, but a lot of fans don't see what it takes to get to that point and then to get the opportunity to play for, there's only 30 teams in the MLB, which means 30 cities, right? And even less when you consider the teams that or the cities that have two teams. Um, and that's a real cool thing, but the fans don't see, the 25 plus years to get to that point. What does that do for you mentally when, you see the press and you see the articles, or do you even pay attention to anything, the fans say or the media says?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean it's hard to miss it. We spend a lot of time on social media, obviously, but I think um it's kind of one ear out the other, whether what people say, good or bad, doesn't really matter. I think the only opinions that do matter are myself and the ones that are in the clubhouse. You can have 100 people tell you that, let's DFA this guy, get rid of him. Why is this guy pitching? But the people in that room, they trust each other. And that's the only thing that matters. Obviously social media is a big part of what we do now. And, anybody can have an opinion. So it doesn't always make it right. I think fans are pretty smart though. And, you can't discredit what they say, but if you get locked into what people have to say about you after a bad game, and business is probably isn't for you, because you get a lot of it, and you just kind of got to let like water off your back. So yeah, try not to pay attention to it, but it's hard, and we see it. And you kind of you look at it in terms of like Trey Turner. Look what that did. This guy's getting booed everywhere every single time, and that's taking an effect on him. And then the fans are like, well, let's switch it. And instead booing, let's, cheer this guy on, give him a standing ovation, whether it was supposed to be sarcasm or not. It look what it did for him at that second half. And, you wish that fans would probably take that approach more, but, what are you going to do? But yeah, try not
Was
to.
it crazy to see out of all the fan bases, it be the Philly fans to be
Yeah.
a
Yeah, I know.
positive
I
before.
know that took a lot for them to do that. So, I think that's probably why it had much more effect than it did, especially coming from Philly fans. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally totally true. It's a wild thing. What would you say is speaking of Philly fans? Obviously, they're notorious for how high their expectations are, regardless of what sport and what athlete. But is there like a place that is the hardest to play at? Like as a pitcher, there's a stadium where you're like, oh my God, these guys are gonna fucking wear me out.
Um, I've I'm not, no, I think Philly was, when we played in Philly, they were pretty relentless, um, especially in the bullpen. But I mean, they weren't like, I did expect more. When we had Justin Topa, he's from that area. And, he was like, it was like a couple innings, it was like the third inning or something. And I'm like, man, I thought Philly fans were supposed to be ruthless. I'm like, they've been pretty nice so far. And he was like, the alcohol hasn't kicked in yet. Just wait. I was like, all right. Sixth, seventh inning rolled around. All of a
Yeah,
sudden it was chaos, just anything and everything they were just saying. I was like, you were right.
you
I was
nailed
like, you're right.
it.
And I heard about New York, but New York is pretty easy to ignore because they have like a room that you can go into and like watch the game. So, but anytime that you're sitting out in those on the in the seats out in the bullpen, yeah, I mean they're pretty brutal, but nowhere I would say that's like, oh man, like really hate going in here right now, because it's like the same thing, like one ear out the other.
Yeah.
And it's actually a funny story about that. I was in Seattle when I was with the Blue Jays, and I had a lot of my buddies, there, and one of my best friends was chilling in the bullpen. uh, some fan from Seattle had some choice of words for me, like "you suck," but a little bit more, a little bit more swear words in it. But and it went on for about 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm like, all of a sudden, I just kind of hear commotion going on from behind me, and I'm like, what's going on? And I just see my buddy, and he has this guy like in his shirt, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And like, luckily, like they didn't kick him out. He didn't do anything, but I could just see him. He's like really getting into him, and
Yeah.
he comes back in the middle of the inning. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, dude, he's like, he was saying all those things about you. I couldn't do it. And I'm like, you got to. He's like,
You
how do
have
you
to.
do that? I was like, it's literally just a mute button, man. I was like, we get it every day now. So you're just trained for it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and so, yeah, I don't think there's a, too tough of a place, but yeah, I think Philly and New York are obviously up there.
Do you recall any like what was the best heckle you've ever received? Do you recall any that just stick out
I
that were just
don't
like, fuck, you know what? That was pretty good.
I don't I don't know if I could say it on here, but
That's
man,
fair.
there
That's
was a
fair.
guy in Detroit who was, and from where I'm facing, obviously I face towards the stands. This guy was just, and I could see everybody every time I was looking at Stephen Vogt at the time, and I'm just like, are we sure? And he's like trying to be professional about it and like not laugh. And I could see all the guys are just like sitting there like with their hands over their face. And I wish I could tell what he was saying, but it was definitely a guy in Detroit. It definitely threw me off a little bit because it was the first time I've heard this heckle, and it was pretty crazy. He did get kicked out right after that, so
Okay.
I think it was like that, like Toba saying, just wait for that alcohol to kick in. And the guy was like normal all day, like funny. He was funny, like chirping us and stuff like that. And then right when I stepped on the mound, I think that last Coors Light hit, and that was it. So yeah, it's somebody in Detroit, but yeah.
That's like the perfect structure of a baseball game of like, oh, give them 6 innings, and now that it's time for us to work, this is when they're gonna start feeling that liquor.
Exactly. So
That's
you got you
that's
got
when you gotta lock in.
you got to be a little crazy to be a bullpen guy. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sooner or later, you guys are gonna start getting ready in the clubhouse. There's gonna be underground
Yeah,
bullpen,
yeah,
the batting cages and shit.
yeah,
To
for sure.
avoid that, man. Fuck. Being a PNW guy yourself, I spent a ton of time in Seattle. I'm living in Portland now, but is there any PNW secrets that people might know about or not know about? Things that you enjoyed as a kid growing up? Some secret restaurants or bars, places to check out?
Mm, no, I'm not sure that I could think of anything. I mean, anything that you've probably heard of, you already know. Um, Trying to think, I don't have any like special restaurants because my mom used to cook a lot, so we never really went out a whole lot. And
Is your mom Spanish? Is that right?
my dad is.
Oh, your dad
My
is.
dad
Okay,
is.
gotcha.
Yeah, yeah, my dad is. So yeah, that side. He lives in Texas, so
Okay.
yeah. But no, I can't think anything off the top of my head right now.
Have you ever had a Seattle dog outside the stadium?
Of course.
Of course. Okay. Did you?
I try to tell people all the time, like, put some cream cheese on there, man. And
Got it,
they're like, get away from me.
no,
Like,
it's genius,
it's the
bro.
best. So yeah, no, I definitely I've had a few of those after a late night.
That's the key. The key is the late night for sure.
Exactly.
You can regret that street meat the next day, right?
I mean, for sure.
Usually we have a co-host, my buddy Jordy, who's a good friends with Scott as well. We sat down and we took the liberty of coming up with some nicknames in hopes that it would lead to a potential promotional night in your honor, much like Death Cabby for Cutie did last year for
Yeah.
Cabby. So I'm gonna just throw them out. You say yay or nay, and then whichever one sticks, we'll take to the marketing team
All right.
over.
All right.
I don't have that access, so you're probably gonna have to let them know.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
all right, here we go. Sauce Daddy.
No,
No, okay, not. I was thinking we could have barbecue night at the stadium, man. The real T Swizzle.
maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
There's a lot of risk reward with that one,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right?
So
Like
that's
we
I'm on the fence on that one. I'm
right. Well,
50-50.
we could have like a Taylor Swift night in your honor, but
Yeah,
then
I
the
mean,
Swifties are going to show up and they may not like that,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
that imposter.
I don't want to disappoint the fans, so that's why I'm a maybe on that one.
Okay, that one's iffy. That's fair. That's Tay Tay 2.0.
No.
Nope. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Last nickname Saucy 007.
That's the one. That's
That's
the
the one.
that's the one.
All
Yeah.
right, the little James Bond situation. Going back on the sauce situation, I vote churros and a chocolate covered sauce.
I mean that's a good one.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. I
You're
like that.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. I like that one.
Perfect. More clippable stuff. Obviously, social media is a big thing. You're on social media. It's a major part of society nowadays. So let me ask you this question straight up. Who is the better Sauce athlete? Sauce Gardner of the New York Jets or Tayler Saucedo of the Seattle Mariners?
I'm biased and I'm going to say myself,
Yeah.
I
Gotcha.
think a lot of people try and say that I'm not an athlete because I'm a been a pitcher only since high school, which is fair to assume that. But I always end up shocking people and they're like, "Wait a minute, you're kind of an athlete." I'm like, "I'm trying to tell you." So, yeah, I mean, in realistic world, it's probably Sauce Gardner, but in my world, it's me.
Yeah, no, and that's completely fair. I see no issues with it. It's funny too because I got two younger brothers. One played in Kansas, one is playing in Tulsa right now,
Oh, nice.
pitching down there, and they've been PO since like 13, uh,
No,
which is like
that's pretty crazy.
you got to be bad with a bat, especially as
Yeah.
Canadians, man.
Yeah, at least I got kicked out in high school. At least I can play little league and everything. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that's crazy.
Do you guys have that rule with the Mariners that if you throw a shutout, you get to hit the next day?
Um, no, because I think we set a record last year for most shutouts, and we um never saw the bat. And I think it's more of like a injury risk. I think you can kind of get away with that in the minor leagues for sure. I remember that kind of being a thing, but probably in the big leagues, I'd probably be not so good of a headlines and if somebody went down and taking swings and they're like, what the hell are they doing? And
Someone
somebody's going
fell
to get in
their shadow
trouble.
yesterday.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I wish I would love to give it a go, but maybe when my playing days, I'll go join like a beer league or something, men's league, see
There
what
you go.
happens and
We'll, we'll put
prove
together
the
a
haters wrong.
walk-off team.
Yeah.
When did you know you were going to be a pitcher? You said high school?
Yeah, I mean, I always was a pitcher throughout. Um, but I think obviously once, I got to high school, they were like, all right, yeah, you don't need a hit anymore. So that was when I was like, all right, this is probably my only shot that I have if I'm going to do anything. And so, yeah, probably high school is when I really started getting after pitching.
Nice, nice. Do you wish the NL would bring back the old rules with no DH and
Absolutely.
then yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you don't even need to finish. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a bummer, just, it would be nice to casually run into one, maybe one, that's kind of your dream, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even as a reliever, I don't think I would have really had that opportunity unless obviously, I go multiple innings, but I know the Mariners like to play matchups. And so even if that was the case, even if they were like, all right, yeah, you only threw 6 pitches, but yeah, you got a lefty up there. We're gonna go with the righty. So probably wouldn't have got the opportunity, but you know, that sucks. But it is what it is.
I'm still holding out hope you'll get your Bartolo Colon moment, man. I'm hoping you get that.
That's the dream, right? So
How do you feel about currently, and obviously anybody on the roster can step on the mound. How do you feel about like these blowout games having position players eat up innings? Are you for it? Are you against it? Is there a dude on the Mariners you would love to see in that situation?
yeah, no, I'm for it. I don't, especially with how many games you play, and there's no need to burn a relief pitcher for like let's say 12-1 game. Especially those are really hard to keep focused in, and that's kind of when things could unravel. Um, but I would love, I know, Rojas has been on the mound before, but I think what we all would like to see is maybe Julio. I know that would never happen, but I know like what can't it's just something like what can't this guy do? Maybe it's pitching. So then you can have that upper hand on him. You'd be like, all right, so you are human. That is nice to see.
Yeah, yeah, because he doesn't come across as human at all.
No, no, he's definitely. I think he was created in a lab for sure. So
I don't want to put you in a tough position, and obviously comparing the two is difficult because very different positions. But getting to play with a guy like Vladdy Jr. and Julio, do you see, comparisons in their work ethic or how they go about things, or you know, tell me a little bit about what it was like getting to experience playing with these generational talents that are deemed, these guys before they're even the guys.
yeah, I mean, obviously, like I came up with Vladdy, so that was a little bit cooler to see, to just see that kid turn into, the superstar. Obviously, the name came with a lot of merit, and that could either go one way. You could either get, too much in your head, like too much publicity, whatever it is. And to see him just take that into stride and handle it was unbelievable. And you just knew, like, I mean, even like when we were in low A, we're like, this kid's gonna be a Hall of Famer, right? Like,
Jesus.
there's no way this kid isn't gonna be. The ball just sounded different coming off his bat, and just seeing like how crazy people were for him. Like it was just nuts. And then obviously for him to go up there and have the success and doing all the things, and I'm pretty sure he just set an arbitration record. He's a very special talent. And then you come over and you got Julio, and now he's kind of like the face of baseball pretty much, other than like Otani and those guys. But you see Julio, I'm like, dude, this guy's a unicorn. Like this guy people like this aren't falling off trees. And and then you could see that how the ball jumps off his bat. It's just effortless and it's easy. And you're like, man, can you just like struggle a bit? Like, just like be human, man. And the thing about that makes these guys so special too is like what people don't see on a daily basis is just how they are as human beings. Like, like Julio is just like some of these guys, especially in baseball, when the world is handed to you, you could develop an ego and, kind of rub people the wrong ways. And that never happened with either Vladdy or Julio. And I've obviously only known Julio for a year now. And it's like he's just a guy. And, he never lets any of that get to his head. And he's just like, I mean, even today, perfect example. I'm just sitting on the couch. I had a live BP today, and I'm just waiting around. We had like an hour and a half before we had to do anything. And he just comes over and he opens up this box of Oakleys. And I was like, well, those are nice. Those are cool. And he's like, take one. And I'm like, take one. And I'm like, he's like, yeah. He's like, grab it, whichever one you like. I'm like, okay, thanks. But and then you see him, he's going around to each guy. Like you see all these guys, like they're putting on Oakleys, and I'm like, dude, like he's just, obviously we all know him, the player, and how special he is, but it's even more so is when you get it's a good human being with
Mhm.
that as well. And so, it's been really cool to play with those two people. And, obviously they're going to be playing a lot longer than I am when I'm done. And it's going to be really cool to see how their career unfolds.
No, and then I mean that's totally fair, man. And I think like the fans got to see a little bit of that last year. Julio went to Scott and wanted to do the Run DMC situation, right?
Yeah.
That was really cool to see. Do you still have the suit too?
Yeah, I got it. I got it tucked away. I will be honest though, the shoes weren't for me. Um, Respect to Julio, I told him I was like, I don't know if I'll be suiting these up again ever again. But yeah, I kept them just for the memorabilia.
No, that's fair, man. That's cool, and that's fair to hear. Wrapping up, only got a couple more questions, man. I got one more, you question, a baseball question, and then maybe just like a fun question. In terms of like, I know like obviously you guys get a ton more analytics, and there's a lot more of that driven towards your game plan and the pitching plan based on matchups. And like you said, the Mariners are very matchup focused. Are you the type of pitcher that is like, oh, okay, I'm going to go with the game plan no matter what. I'm going to do whatever Cal puts his fingers down. That's what's coming. Or are you somebody that, has to feel it that day? These pitches are working a little bit better. That dude was just late on a fastball. There's no way I'm throwing him a slider, despite the fact that that's what the, game plan called for. What's kind of the process for you there?
Um, I think it's a little mixture of like both. I think, the Mariners do such a good job with their game planning, and they make it really simple, but they never tie your hands to one thing. At the end of the day, they want you to just throw strikes and get the hitter out, however that may be. So, yeah, there might be days where they're like, hey, this is the best pitch for this hitter, but that pitch might not be working. And you might, like you said, like this might be working better. They're perfectly fine with that. There's no drawback from them. There's no like, well, we just sat in this meeting for 45 minutes. Like, why did you do this after we did all that? There's none of that. It's like, did you feel comfortable with that? And I'm like, yeah, I felt better with this. And they're like, all right, works for me. Hey, you got 3 outs, 0 on the board. Man, I ain't gonna tell you different. And I think too, Cal is really good at reading that too. I remember there was multiple conversations. An example of that was when uh, we played Anaheim, and I closed out those last 2 innings in the extra inning game, and he came up to me when Crone was up. It came for a mound visit, and it was a communication. It wasn't like, hey, we're gonna do this. It was he was like, hey, let's attack early. But I think, and a four seam's never really in Marshall. I think I throw it 1% of the time, but he was like, I think he's going to be leaning out in front. He was like, what do you think about like at some point we flash the four? And I'm like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. You know, he's like, all right, is there any time you want to throw it? And I'm like, on you. And he was like, all right, I'll let you know, obviously you'll see it. And I'm like, all right. And it came, I think it was like 1-2, and he put it down, and I'm like, let's run it. And, we got the strikeout on it and to end the game. And, like I say, he's really smart. And it's really easy when you have that communication. It's effortless. And especially, like it doesn't feel like a business with them. It's not like, okay, hey, we're just here to do it. Like, you built that friendship with them so you could trust them and be like, all right, I know you have the best outlook for me in this situation. And so you just trust those guys and what they're doing. And, I know the coaches trust both of us to do it. And, you know, it's just a really cool feeling being out there when you have that. And so
Yeah. Does Cal call all the pitches, or does anything get relayed from the?
yeah, I mean, I think majority of the time he's calling pitches, but you'll see him every now and then like look over, like, maybe if they have an opinion or something, or situationally like, hey, should we do something else? Like, but I think 99% of the time it's Cal. And like I said, he does a great job in handling everybody and not just kind of getting into it, putting everybody into a box. He calls the game to everybody's strengths, which doesn't always happen. And so, it's refreshing to see that.
I think if I'm not mistaken, you guys had a team ERA that ranked third in the MLB, starters and relief pitchers. How much does Cal play a part in that?
Big part. He's like I said, he's working with everybody, he's communicating with everybody. And even if like we have a bad game or something, he comes up and he was like, what did you see? Like, what did you feel? Like, you think we should have done something different? Like, you let me know. And, majority of the time it's like, no, I don't think we should have done anything different. I today was my day, and I got. And um he's really smart with what he's doing and how he communicates. And so, like I said, it's just really nice to have that back there. And
Mhm.
even, when we had Tom Murphy, it was the same thing. Like, they're just like really smart in how they want to talk to guys and how they communicate it. And, it just makes things a lot easier. And it just takes away the stress of being like, all right, I have to do all this, and like with Cal, when he's handling all these different pitchers, however many it is on the roster, that like you expect it to be sometimes, it's not your best day, but he's on top of it every day. So it's awesome.
No, and that's great, man. I was a catcher in college and in high school myself. Do you ever find like for me when I was calling games and learning how to call games, um, I often took it upon myself. Anytime a pitcher did poorly, I always had to reevaluate, the decisions I made based on the pitch calls, right? Because it's one thing if you leave a changeup up, it's another thing if you throw a perfect changeup and it gets crushed, right? Do you ever run into a situation where you're like, fuck, I wish we would have thrown something else?
Yeah, I think that happens quite a bit. Like, you always look at it when you're in the moment and you trust um what they're putting down. But there's also times when you're like, oh man, we gotta throw this pitch. So when you're not committed to the pitch, that it always happens. And then you always try and tell yourself, like, you're like, I won't do that again. Next time I'm gonna commit. Like, I'm gonna commit to what I want to throw. And and somehow we don't do it every time. We always talk about, like, you can talk to any pitcher about that, they'll always say that. Like, if they're not committed to a pitch, it's probably not going to go well. And every time you're in that moment, you're like, all right, step off. And then you're like, well, if I execute the pitch, then it should work out. That should be the right call. And
Yeah.
then even then, like, you're already second guessing it going in. And then all of a sudden you throw the pitch, you look up and it's, he's rounding the bases and you're like, you
Yeah.
know, and
And
so
like, I mean, that's the thing, like in the big leagues too, where you got hitters like Julio and Vladdy or like a Jose Ramirez. Sometimes they're gonna make a pitch and he's just gonna hit it.
That's just, I mean, hey, like, Stephen Vogt always said it. Hey, he's like, hey, they drive nice cars too, right? Like,
Yeah.
right. Like, they get paid well to do what they do, and we get paid well to do what we do. At the end of the day, like, you're gonna run into that sometimes, regardless. It could be the most perfect pitch ever, right? Like, you think about, when we played the Rays, I was in the ninth inning. I gave up that home run to, I think it was Diaz, and I thrown that pitch probably 400 times last season, and it was either a pop up or a ground out or a strikeout. That day, it just so happened that he put a good at bat to it, and that was where I was like, man, I threw a bunch of pitches already. I threw three pitches that were away, away, away. So his body was already there. Why didn't I throw the slider and just change his eye view? But because I've thrown that pitch, I've done that. That's been my pitch to go to, especially in that situation. You trust that, but at the end of the day, they drive nice cars too, and you put it out, and it's going to happen. So
No, hell yeah, man. That's the game, man.
yeah,
You hear it all the time as a hitter. You're successful 3 out of 10 times. You're a fucking Hall of Famer.
yeah.
So
And they literally pay you to fail. So
yeah, literally. And us as athletes would never want to be in that situation where we're not succeeding to the level of, I think every athlete wants to have a 0 ERA or bat 1,000,
yeah,
but it's just that's not realistic. So
won't happen.
no, I feel that, man. Do you have any goals that you set out for this year that maybe we could track? Anything in mind that you're like, this is what I want to nail?
I think last year, like, obviously good year, but I put myself in a hole a lot of the times, falling behind. And, I think I had almost 30 walks, which is a nightmare to look at. But, I think, obviously if I can attack the zone a little bit more and limit the damage, I think, it's just I put myself in a better position to even do a whole lot better. And, so hopefully I can limit those walks and just let the hitters do the work instead of me gifting them. And obviously just staying healthy and making it through another big league season. And, that's kind of all I'm looking forward to right now.
No, absolutely, man. With it being the off season, and obviously, I think it's been super well documented how the Dodgers have carried themselves this off season. Do you think is bad for baseball? What they did with the Ohtani contract, him making $2 million a year over the course of that contract. Do you have a problem with them trying to monopolize the talent? And then, like, part two, the question is, are you happy to see him get the fuck out of the AL West?
I am happy to see him get out of here. But I think the only thing that the Dodgers did really is put a target on their back. That's all they did, right? They're trying to buy a championship, which if you got it, flaunt it, right?
Mhm.
If you can go out and purchase the best baseball players and put them all on one team, I mean, that's, fantastic. Good for you. You could say it's bad for baseball, but has it really worked out for anybody? I mean, you think about the Mets, you think about the Padres, it hasn't really worked out for the Yankees in for a while now. And I don't think they really spent money this offseason, other than acquiring, Soto. But, I who knows? It might work for them. Um, but I don't know if it's bad for baseball. Um, I just think that they just really put a target on their back. Like obviously everybody's going to be itching to play them. And if you're not, then I don't know if you're really a true competitor because, they're probably assuming that it's like, all right, this is going to be easy. It's going to be a cakewalk, World Series ours. But again, like sample sizes that really hasn't a super team really hasn't worked out. And baseball isn't like basketball where you can get a big three and probably gonna go and win an NBA championship or something like that. Baseball is a brutal sport, and regardless of how good you are, everything else needs to fall in line, like health, your pitching, defense. Like, can they do that? If they do it, obviously, yeah, they're going to be a great team. And probably going to wake up some owners to probably try and spend a little bit more and do all that. But they still got to go out there and compete for 9 innings just like we do. And, I think especially if you're from Seattle, you know that defense wins championships. Shout out to LOB. But, and I think with us, we have a pretty good pitching staff. I think obviously one of the best in baseball just from last year. And, I'll take our pitching staff over their hitters. Hitting is one of the hardest things to do in sports. So, obviously they're going to be a really fun team to watch. But, see if they can do it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I mean, you make a great point. You can look at, the Angels teams of the past having Trout and Ohtani on the same team.
Forgot about the Angels.
It's a perfect example of how it doesn't always, translate to success. So no, great point, man. I also think like it kind of shows the difference between, professional athlete versus, somebody that didn't quite make it is, oh, I'm going to cry about what the Dodgers are doing, or instead of, taking that mentality, I'm going to take the mentality of fuck that. I'm going to go beat them now and show them that they can't just buy that championship.
Yeah, you want to compete against the best of the best. And, like I said, if you don't, then probably not for you. If you're scared of that, probably not for you. But, I think that's what I said. A lot of people are going to be really wanting to take this team down. So good luck.
And I don't think there'd be anything more satisfying to see them just miss the playoffs completely after that.
I think that'll be everybody's World Series, I think.
Yeah. Doesn't even matter at that point who wins it all.
Does not matter.
Last question, Taylor. Again, more clinical content here. If you could steal any pitch from any pitcher to ever play the game,
Matt Brash slider.
Matt Brash slider. All right.
That's not even close. I think anything that Matt Brash does, I'll take. That guy is a wizard with the baseball. I don't know how he does anything that he does. You can't even try and be like, all right, hey, let me get your grip. Because it doesn't even make sense. I'm like, how are you holding the baseball like that? And how does it come out like that? So, yeah, I think anything that Matt Brash does, it would be, I think the next one would probably be Mariano Rivera's cutter.
Cutter, yeah.
But in our time, I think, yeah, I'll take Matt Brash's slider all day.
That's fair. I was thinking Gray Maddox's changeup, which would be a good one too. But most cutters, yeah, that's wild.
But
man.
when I just see it live every day, and I just see like when I'm watching multiple hitters fall and do a twirl around, and like even though they know it's coming and they're still doing that, like that's unhittable. It's just like it doesn't like yeah, give me that. I want that.
I'm a little bit jealous you get to see it all the time because I constantly replay that slider he threw Jose Ramirez last year and spun him in the batter's box.
Like that's the thing though, is he's done it multiple times. Like when you look back, it's just like, bro, how? And it's it's the perfect pitch because everybody obviously they're trying to hunt that four-seam fastball, right? And then it comes out and it looks like it's going to be a four-seam fastball, but the ball's moving 25 inches. I don't even know what it is. Like, and it's like, wait a minute. The ball, like you got guys swinging at the other batter's box. Like if there was a lefty in there, it'd be behind him and they're still swinging at it. And it's like, what? Like, so yeah, I think Matt Brash's slider for sure.
No, that's fair, man. It's filthy. So yeah, no complaints, no notes on that one. That's all my questions, bro. Is there anything that you wanted to say? Shout out to anybody?
No, I got nothing.
All right, man. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be in Arizona March 15th and 16th. So I'm gonna come out to those games. I might shoot you a text. I'm doing shows down there at a brewery and then at a theater in Tempe. So I'll reach out and touch base, just check in and see how things are going and wish you nothing but the best, man. Go have a great season and make the Seattle faithful proud, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hope to have you back sometime. Cheers, brother.
See ya.